In this video, we are going to be looking at the biggest frauds from the 2023 NFL season. I'm going to be covering 3 teams in this video that are extremely fraudulent and embarrass themselves, and then there's going to be 3 other teams I'd like to mention. I don't think they meet the full criteria of being frauds, but there's definitely an argument to be made for them to be on this list. Before I start, take a second, pause the video, see if you can predict the 3 teams I'll be covering, because I'm getting right into it with our first team. We them boys. Of course, you got the Dallas Cowgirls. 2021, Dak Prescott leads the Cowboys to a 12-5 season, winning the NFC East. Expectations are high. They have a home playoff game in the wild card round against the 49ers, and they lose to Jimmy G. Then last year, Dak misses some time at the beginning of the season. Doesn't matter. They continue to win. He comes back. They finish with a 12-5 record, making the playoffs, second in the NFC East, with the Eagles winning the division. They travel to Tampa for the wild card round and win a playoff game against a team with a losing record. But then in the divisional round, once again, they take the L to the 49ers. Then this season, Dak gets his interceptions under control. The Cowboys defense looks like one of the best in the league, and with some help from the refs and the Eagles throwing their season away, the Cowboys somehow win the NFC East, finish 12-5, and take on the Packers at home in the wild card round. And we all know what happens. They didn't just lose to the Packers, they had their asses handed to them. The defense comes out and acts like they have no idea how to play football. 29-year-old Aaron Jones runs all over them. Jordan Love has no problem picking this defense apart. The Dallas offense struggles with one of the best connections from the regular season. Dak to CD Lamb acts like they've never played together before. Within minutes of the game, CD is on the sidelines complaining, crying, and when you see that, you know it's over. Like, come on, CD, what are you doing? Pull yourself together. The Packers go up 20-0, and before you know it, Dak throws the pick 6 to send the Cowboys down 27-0 in their home playoff game. Cowboys score a touchdown before half to go down 27-7, but this game was never within reach, as later the Packers led 48-16, up by 32. Don't let the score and the stat lines make you think this game was close whatsoever. They have a great season, they have a great defense throughout the regular season, and they just cannot come through in the playoffs. Year after year, the Cowboys show all of America that they are just the biggest chokers in the NFL. They can't compete in the playoffs. The lights were too bright. In the last 3 seasons, they finished with a 12-5 record, each of the 3 years, winning their division twice. And from those 3 years, they have 1 playoff win, and it was against a team with a losing record. Moving on to our next team we'll be looking at, it's the Miami Dolphins. Don't be fooled by all of Miami's excitement they had this season. They sucked. They go crazy when they beat Denver 70-20 in week 3. Everyone thinks Miami is one of the best teams in the league. Tyreek Hill is in the MVP conversation. It looks good, but as the season progressed, the Miami Dolphins really only had 2 notable wins. They lose to Buffalo week 4. They lose to Philly week 7. They lose to KC week 9. They beat the Rams week 11, and they beat the Cowboys in week 16. But they lose to Baltimore in week 17 in a blowout loss. Then they lose to Buffalo in week 18 for the division. They beat up on bad teams all season long, and when it came to the better ones, their offense and defense did not perform, especially against KC in the wild card round of the playoffs. And I think that was probably the most embarrassing loss for the Dolphins all season long. I know it was cold. I know you're going up against Patrick Mahomes, but their performance was it was just horrible. So embarrassing. Thought they would have been able to make it a little bit closer against the Chiefs all game long. They just tried to set up screens, dumping it off behind the line of scrimmage, and it did not work. So what did Mike McDaniels do? They kept trying it, and it just kept getting worse and worse. They had nothing from that game besides 1 long pass touchdown to Tyreek Hill. Other than that, the Dolphins had nothing to show for. Patrick Mahomes to Travis Kelce and Rashee Rice had no problem connecting all game long. Isaiah Pacheco, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and even Patrick Mahomes had no problem running the ball all over the the Miami defense. It was just, I know I already said it, but embarrassing. They have so much speed, so much talent on their team, and they couldn't get anything done. It'll be interesting to see, can this Dolphins team compete with the other big teams in the NFL next season, with Tua, with their Mike McDaniel schemes? I don't know. Their defense lacks in a lot of areas. Even though they have so much speed, their offense struggles against good defenses. I didn't watch enough of the Dolphins all season long to tell you what the problem was, but definitely against KC, I think the play calling from McDaniels was terrible. Then we get to our final team. It's the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles have a phenomenal season last year. They go 14-3. They go to the Super Bowl. Jalen Hurts has one of the best Super Bowl performances of all time. And the Eagles had a great chance to win the Super Bowl. They might have if a controversial call would have went their way. Sadly, they lose. They come just short to Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. This season, they pick up right where they left off. They start the season 10-1. Their defense isn't as scary as it was last year, but they're still finding ways to win. They're looking like a Super Bowl contending team until it all goes downhill. They lose 5 of their last 6 games to finish the season 11-6, and they have to head to Tampa to take on the Bucs in the wild card round of the playoffs. They're coming off a Week 18 blowout loss to the Giants. AJ Brown is out. Jalen Hurts is dealing with an injury, and everyone was still picking the Eagles to win this game. People were like, the Eagles are a great team. They're in the Super Bowl last year. They started off hot. We still think the Eagles are going to be able to beat the Bucs. I wasn't so sure of it, but I still picked the Eagles to win. I really thought they'd come back. They come out onto the field in Tampa, Monday Night Football, and just the Eagles team acts like they don't even want to be there. The whole team is lackluster. The defense is just getting torn up. No real motivation, no real hunger. You just can't, the sidelines, they all look down. Tampa comes out and just destroys the Eagles. And it was embarrassing. Pretty much after they beat the Chiefs, and Nick Sirianni started yelling at Chiefs fans walking out of Arrowhead, that's really where it started going downhill for the Eagles. And now it's going to be really interesting. How good will the Eagles be next season? Their defense wasn't elite whatsoever this year. Their offense was all right, but Jalen Hurts started to struggle, and he had pretty much nothing in the playoffs when he couldn't just throw jump balls up to AJ Brown. I mean, Dallas Goedert in the playoff game was non-existent until the fourth quarter. And DeAndre Swift is an all right running back, but he's not one of the best in the league. So the Eagles have a lot to work on during this offseason after being a Super Bowl favorite to losing 5 of 6 games. Jalen Hurts' injury definitely played a big role in that, but dang, it was pretty bad and embarrassing for Eagles fans. Now that I've gone through what I think were the 3 biggest frauds from the 2023 NFL season, there's 3 more teams I want to mention that I think could maybe make the list. Let me know what you think about the 3 I already mentioned and the 3 I will mention in the comment section below. The first team is the Jacksonville Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence, his first year, he gets a pass because that whole thing with Urban Meyer. Last year, they win the division. He looks pretty good. They win a playoff game after coming back from a horrendous first half. And this season, they are once again the favorites to win their division, and it doesn't look like it's going to be very hard for them. Houston and CJ Stroud come out of nowhere, look really good, but it still looks like Jacksonville's going to win the division. Later in the season, Jacksonville's still in first place until they drop 5 of their last 6 games and not only lose the division, but get knocked out of the playoffs after a 20-28 Week 18 loss to the Titans. I think that's definitely up there to be one of the frauds of the season. Jacksonville and Trevor Lawrence, they're supposed to be really good. It's his 3rd year now. It's looking a little rough. The second team I wanted to get into, this one, it's definitely the least amount. It's the Giants. Last year, they make the playoffs. They win a playoff game against the Vikings. Vikings fans that are upset about things with the Lions, shut up. You lost to Daniel Jones and the Giants at home last season. I don't think anyone really had any real expectations for the Giants, though. Some people were fooled, but most people know that Daniel Jones is not good, and we saw it this season as the Giants were terrible. And the last team I wanted to mention was the Ravens. Now, they're probably, with the Giants, they're not very close to being labeled as frauds, but they did have an embarrassing playoff loss. They win the division. They get the 1 seed. They get a bye in the playoffs. They beat the Texans, but the big reason they won that game was because of their defense. And then against the Chiefs in the AFC Championship, the defense holds Casey and Patrick Mahomes to 0 points in the second half. 0. And they lose the game. A little unlucky though. Zay Flowers fumbles the ball at the goal line. He also gets a... I don't think it should have been taunting after he made the big catch, but just unlucky. Lamar Jackson just throws a jump ball into triple coverage with the game on the line. I mean, the Ravens had the game in their hands and they weren't able to capitalize and take it home. That's it for my biggest frauds from the 2023 NFL season. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. If I were to rank them, I'd go number 3, the Eagles, number 2, the Dolphins, and number 1, the Dallas Cowboys. If you enjoy my content, I'd really appreciate if you could like and subscribe. It really helps me out a lot. And once again, as always, thanks for watching.